You're listening to the Trading Bear Podcast. This is episode 42, The Daily Show.
Mystery player. Position.
Forward.
Start price.
£4.42.
Current price.
£7.68.
PB.
23p.
MB.
24p.
Dividend yield.
6.2%.
Welcome back, thanks for joining in. In today's news, as expected, the market took a slight drop today as the first period of the deposit bonus expired. Many traders would have bought just about anyone up until the deadline yesterday in order to boost their net buys. With the deadline passing at midnight last night, now the net buys have been reset for part 2, those same traders are now exiting those trades, rightly or wrongly. Premium players have taken the brunt of the drop, with even the likes of Coutinho and Salah, perhaps surprisingly, dropping before the Champions League match with Barcelona. Elsewhere, Christian Eriksen has a verbal agreement to join Real Madrid this summer. That's according to Diario AS, a Madrid-based newspaper. The article states that Spurs are under pressure to sell, given their financial burden placed on them from the new 62,000-seat stadium, with Eriksen's contract only having one more year left to run. And lastly, in Serie A, Napoli are ready to activate the 20 million release clause of Boca midfielder Augustin Almendra. The young Argentinian, who is set to take part in the Under-20 World Cup later this month, is interesting many, with Napoli keen to gain a head start. The same report also mentions Napoli are keen to snap up Lyon fullback Ferland Mendy in the face of competition from Real Madrid. Let's move on now to today's risers and fallers. And today's riser is provided by Liverpool's Champions League opponents Barcelona, and one of their lesser well-known stars, midfielder Arthur. The 22-year-old Brazilian has risen 10p today to sit at a current price of 95p. Described by the Telegraph as Xavi in Iniesta's clothing, the young Brazilian has had a steady season, and although doesn't make the headlines with goals and assists, often sets the pendulum in motion, providing that frustrating knack in a fancy football player of the pre-assist. In many ways, he's extremely similar to a player that Barcelona have agreed to sign in the summer for €75 million, Dutch sensation Frenkie de Jong. And it's de Jong's current price of £2.14 that has caused Arthur's price to rise, as some traders begin to question if the two of them do the same job and at the same team next year, why is there therefore over £1 difference in price? Who starts in the deep playmaker Xavi-esque role may seem a no-brainer if Barcelona is spending £75 million plus. But de Jong himself recently stated that he does not expect to start the season as first choice, and the two of them may well have to swap game time. Although I expect de Jong is being slightly modest here, and I could easily see a scenario where the two play alongside each other. So while the likes of Arthur and de Jong do a great job for the team, someone not doing a particularly good job for anyone, including himself right now, is Arthur's compatriot at PSG, Neymar. After a 3-month injury layoff, Neymar has come back playing, seemingly unable to once again control his erratic emotions. This time letting himself get annoyed by a supporter before half slapping, half punching the said supporter. On the back of a recently received 3-game European ban for an online tirade against officials, and all is not rosy in the Neymar garden quite clearly. Today has seen Neymar's price fall heavily by 26p to sit now at a price of £7.67. However, it's worth noting that the drop is not solely down to his antics alone, with the vast majority of premium players in particular facing drops today, on the back of the first deposit bonus period ending, as previously mentioned in the news. I expect these premium players to rise once more soon enough, as they always do, with that rise coming sooner rather than later. Once the long run of media days kick in as the 18-19 season ends, traders will come back into these premium players, especially with the added June-July media bonus dividends. One other unsurprising drop today is Ajax midfielder Dusan Tadic. As spoken about in the last episode, with no transfer links and at the wrong end of the age spectrum, as soon as Ajax's European adventure ends, Tadic's price will offer extremely little value. We go into this episode's prospect player now, a player who I feel could do well in the near future and attract buys. For this episode, we head into the Bundesliga and the Bavarian giants of Bayern Munich, which incidentally is actually pronounced using half German and half English for the English speaker. It should really be FC Bayern München in full German, or Bayern Munich using full English. With that brief German lesson over, it's fullback Joshua Kimmich who provides us with a buy this episode. Munich are currently locked in a battle with Borussia Dortmund for the Bundesliga title, sitting only 2 points ahead with 3 games left. A scenario that eerily reflects the battle in the EPL between Liverpool and Manchester City. So this weekend, Bayern host Boston League Hanover in a game which screams out possession stats and hence PB potential for the likes of high baseliners Thiago and Kimmich. In games like this, Kimmich often spends more time in the opposition penalty box than his actual own half, and I don't expect that to change on Saturday. Kimmich went for a crazy spell of winning 5 out of the 6 game weeks earlier this season in December. Check out my Twitter page at TradingBear1 for those stats. There's a proven PB monster. For these reasons, this episode's prospect player is Joshua Kimmich. Let's head into some of your questions now. This episode's first question comes via email, all the way from South Korea, from Shim Hyungshop, who wrote, "There is lots of optimism here in Korea that Lee Kang-In will have a Star World Cup in Poland. I feel most Europeans only know about Son Heung-min. It would be great to have another Korean star known by everyone. Do you think Lee Kang-In will have a good World Cup? P.S. I have lots of futures in him." Firstly, thanks for your email, Hyungshop. Hyungshop is actually someone I know in person, but it's always great to receive emails from different countries nevertheless. So if you're listening from America or New Zealand, Switzerland, South Africa, Ireland, wherever it may be, please do send in your emails. It's great to hear from you. Back to Hyunshop's question though, and do I think Lee Kang-In will have a good World Cup and hence his price will rise? Well, I expect Hyunshop is actually better qualified to answer this question than me, but from a completely neutral perspective, he hasn't really made the breakthrough at Valencia I was hoping he might do in the second half of the season, with a severe lack of minutes for the first team. He's still very young though, only turning 18 in February, so plenty of time yet for the 5'7" left-footed winger / playmaker. One thing's for sure though, if he is going to light up the Under-20 World Cup in Poland later this month in May, he's going to have to do it the hard way. South Korea are in what some might describe as the dreaded group of death. As alongside South Africa, they sit in Group F with 2 of the massive pre-tournament favourites in Portugal and Argentina. Should Korea qualify out of that group, it would certainly be a shock, and if that was to be the case, it's almost certainly going to involve Lee Kang-In at some point. He'll be extremely motivated to show what he can do on a world stage, with scouts from around the world watching. Can he deliver? Well, I hope he can, just for your sake, Hyunsup. The second question comes from Twitter, with Rio asking, when do you think is the best time to buy premium players ahead of the summer media bonus dividend? So just to clarify, the media bonus will run between the months of June and July, paying out the top 5 MB players on a daily basis. The winner each day will receive a 3p dividend, the second place player receiving 2p per share, with 3rd, 4th and 5th each receiving 1p per share. With an average media score of just 450 needed last summer in the June and July months to pick up 5th place, we'll only really need Neymar to spill a drink in training or Van Dijk to visit the now famous Liverpudlian dentist to rake in the dividends. So when is the best time to buy? Well, in Neymar in particular case, I think right now is as good as ever. You always want to buy premiums on the drop, which sounds obvious and is true for all players, but even more so for premiums, with capital squeezed further by these buys. In just the past few days, we've seen Pogba drop and rise twice from the £8 mark to around £7.50, £7.55. And once holding, the daily price of these players should then not concern you too much, with the aim to bring in the dividends over a 2 to 3 month period. You can't really worry about the daily fluctuations. Unless of course you aim to buy in at steps, which is not a totally bad idea. So Pogba and Neymar, the current price seems a decent entry point. The others likely to hoover up MB, Salah, Messi, Virgil van Dijk. If you don't hold these 3 yet, then I would wait until their respective teams exit Europe, and then buy the morning after as they experience their drop. Then others like Sterling, Kane, Ronaldo, I expect to be fairly consistent with their price graphs, with the Nation League happening early doors in June. So an entry point here is less important and slightly less obvious than the previous players mentioned. Any time in the next couple of weeks would be good for those 3. And that's it for this episode. You can download and subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify and Podbean. Head over to the website to send in a question, tradingbearpodcast.com. Alternatively, you can find me on Index Gain or Twitter under the name Trading Bear. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for the Mystery Player.
Mystery player. Position.
Forward.
Start price.
£4.42.
Current price.
£7.68.
PB.
23p.
MB.
24p.
Dividend yield.
6.2%.
Trading bear. Today's mystery player was Brazilian star Neymar.